Oh my god, get over it. This season has already ended. This guy's so hateful. Oh my god. Okay, now that I have said all of your comments, disregarding all of the you forgot comments, we can begin. Yes, I know, the season's been over for about 2 months now, and around 28 different seasons of Drag Race have begun in the meantime, but given that the season 13's dust has settled, I think we're ready to talk about the topic of the mistreatment of certain queens and the favoritism of other queens. While preparing for this video, I saw that for the most part, the winner circle got overall favoritism and the losers were mostly mistreated. So I'm dividing the talk of the season in 2 parts, this being the second video of the 2. This, however, does not mean that the winners were only favored and that the losers were only mistreated. In this video, we'll be going over each one of the queen's storylines on the season, and obviously not everyone will receive the same amount of time because they got more or less special treatment. We're going to be looking at the season objectively, and I will do my best to give valid arguments to my statements. This video is not criticizing the queens, but just the show and how it treated them. I won't be getting into too much detail, like specific episode per episode critiques, but rather I'll be talking about them globally in the season with certain specific examples. Just like in the first video, we will be going over these girls in the order that they were eliminated in, starting with Kahmora and ending with Rosé. Without any further ado, let's begin. Kahmora Hall, as the first eliminated queen of the season, you may not think could have experienced much mistreatment or favoritism against her or for her, but my dear friends, must I remind you of the first episode and that horrid twist. Now, of course, you may not deem what I'm about to say as valid evidence, but as I will mention the episode 1 twist more than once in this video, it's worth mentioning here as well. So for the first episode, the girls had to lip sync in pairs, but then at the end, Tina, Kahmora, and Elliott had to do the lip sync as a threesome. Now, allegedly this is because there was a 14th queen this season who got nixed last minute, so the production had to improvise. That's not the problem though. Out of these 3 queens, I believe that no matter how any of them did, Tina was going to be declared as the winner because she was cast as a specific archetype that Drag Race tends to love to push on the season because it caters to Ru's own taste. That being said, Kahmora could have been given a fighting chance at least. For every previous season, the entrance looks would only be used in some sort of a photo shoot or presentation challenge, so there wouldn't be much movement required from you. And even if you didn't win that first mini challenge given to you, that wouldn't matter much. However, here, that was completely changed. Kahmora came into the workroom in this look that's very much more so a look that you stand in rather than dance in. As we saw with Candy, whom the producers told to bring something onto the stage that she wanted to leave behind in the workroom that would give that little extra to her performance, and as we saw with Denali, oh, we'll get to that, trust me, the producers sure did meddle with the first impressions we had of these girls. Do I think Kahmora would have won the lip sync regardless of her look and subsequently the entire season? No, but I firmly stand behind this. The producers should have told the girls that their first mini challenge was going to be a lip sync battle, so that everyone had a fair shot at the initial division in the cast. Next up is Joey J. Similarly to Kahmora, this season was never Joey's to win, especially given that she came in saying that she was the filler queen of the season. However, there are certain things that we saw happen with Joey that we could have assumed would happen with simply her saying that she did not wear wigs. Of course, the judges came after her immediately for her hairstyle being the same in a couple of her looks. Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what happens when you don't want to wear a wig and have hair. I mean, yeah, it is repetitive, I'm not disputing that, but if she were bald, I believe they would have still critiqued her. But if her hair had been longer, they would have been fine with it. I think you know what I'm trying to say, but this is just an assumption. Another thing that was a little unnecessary were some of the critiques that she got for her first look in the ball. The girls pre-season were assigned their first bag ball looks, and Joey got to do the IV bag. That's what also the Kyron said when she came out onto the runway. Now, what was she critiqued for? For not getting the poison IV bag pun that the judges were pushing on her. It was very weird. Also, I'm pretty sure that a poison IV bag is illegal in most countries. So, I would recommend against it. Strap in. It's time for one of the worst cases of mistreatment on this season with the legend herself, Tamisha Iman. We could mention many a thing here, like how Tamisha was made to do everything queens much younger than her, much healthier than her did, even though that's a little unfair by design, but she was still able to keep up with them, for example. Although, I'm not saying that Tamisha should have been given special treatment in the sense that her parts and challenges should have been, accommodated to her state, as that would give her some minimal favoritism, like really minimal, but they should have been a little more considerate of her. The best example of the mistreatment of Tamisha Iman comes in the episode that she was eliminated in, the discommentary episode. Let's hope that Viacom does not try to block this part of the video too. Basically, in her part of the discommentary with Elliott, Tamisha and Elliott got the second hardest choreography for the challenge, and they both had to do choreo with props, which does not make their performance any easier. On the contrary, it makes it harder. And even with that, we never saw Tamisha actually messing up. In the moments that we did see her, quote-unquote, messing up, do you notice how we never see Elliott? We never see her partner doing the exact same choreography in those times when the show tries to make us believe that Tamisha is messing up. Now, why would that be? If Tamisha is messing up, show Elliott upstaging her. She does end up in the top 3 of this episode after all, but of course she does not win the episode. But if Elliott is actually doing the exact same thing as Tamisha, the show then cannot try to bullshit their way into putting Tamisha into the bottom 2. We could also read these moments of her doing, again, quote-unquote badly as her not giving face when performing. Yeah, so, if I remember correctly, she had a catheter on the entire time during that performance and in general during the filming of the season. Of course, she would show some discomfort in her face. What the fuck are we saying? It's obvious why they did this. For the whole conflict that happened between her and Candy prior to that episode. Interestingly enough, Candy was also set up to be in the bottom 2 with the discommentary challenge. They just needed to have them be in the bottom 2. This is not a new thing. Drag Race has been doing this since season 1, resolving feuds that would happen on Drag Race in bottom 2 lip syncs. But, and as you may be well aware, when it's not organic, it doesn't seem like anything was resolved, and it just ends up being a lazy way to eliminate somebody. Moving on to Tamisha's partner in this commentary episode, Elliott with 2 T's. She's had some pretty bad behavior outside of the show, but also allegedly behind the scenes of the show. She said some pretty racist things, but that's not what we're talking about here. The way that she was treated on the show was not the best. But, listen, I don't believe in karma, but, Anyways, we have to talk about the episode 1 twist again. So, the losing 7 have to vote out one of their own, but what I don't know is that the eliminated queen simply just goes to do the maxi challenge with the winners. I'm glad they didn't really eliminate Elliott or any of the other 6 queens in that first episode, because that would have been really cruel and really unfair, but the whole thing was unfair by itself. By design, the queens that lost their lip syncs later on in the episode were at a higher chance of getting voted out by the other losers, as they did not have the same amount of time to mingle with them. Furthermore, and Tamisha pointed this out, so you can't come for me for repeating her words, they were never going to vote against a non-white queen, because of the possible implications, and because of how the fandom is. Elliott and Utica got the same amount of votes against them first. One of them is an, ooh, I'm not like the other girls queen, and the other one came into the Loser's Lounge, I think that was called, or something like that, I don't remember, last. The only other queen that got votes is Joey J, who came into the season saying that she's the filler queen of the season, and she only got 1 vote from Denali. In the second round of voting, Elliott was unanimously voted out, and anyone could have predicted this. Elliott getting eliminated hinders her morale in the competition and puts her at an immediate disadvantage, as then she's kind of the only queen in Drag Race's history that was eliminated twice during the same episode. Anyone would be hindered by this too. Throughout the rest of the season, she never was really able to recover properly in the competition, as she never won anything. She was given that storyline that I saw from a mile away of her eliminating one of the winning circle queens in the bottom 2 lip sync. That queen was obviously the weakest queen out of the winner circle, Valerie, and that's kind of the highlight for Elliott in the season. All of this was clearly influenced by the outcome of the first episode and its twist, which is, as I've more than 27 times by now explained, one of the least fair things that has ever happened on Drag Race. We really started off kind of weak with Kahmora and Joey and just kept going uphill until we reached the peak of mistreatment for season 13 with Denali. I will say this up front. This clearly was not Denali season 2 win. She will do great on All-Star 7, which we are filming as I'm recording this video. This might be a breach of contract. But, oh well. Denali, episode 1, let's go. I'm going to repeat here what I said with Kahmora. What is the staple of the first episode of Drag Race? A mini, or in some spin-offs, a maxi challenge where you get to present yourself to the audience. For the regular seasons of Drag Race US, that's usually the mini challenge. Could it be a runaway or could it be a photo shoot? Most cases, it's a photo shoot, but doesn't matter. But Denali, assuming like every other queen in the cast, came into the workroom ready to show that she is... what? A professional figure ice figure skater? You know what I mean. Denali came into the workroom in skates, like actual blades. So when she found out that she had to lip sync, she was like, yes, let me change into actual shoes or put protectors on my skates, because she either did not want to damage them or she did not want to hurt somebody, because again, they're blades. After the first episode, Denali tweeted that they did not allow her to do any of this, as in change, put protectors on her skates, quickly deleted the tweet, but I sadly did not catch it in time to screenshot it. So let's pretend that this is not the case. Let's pretend that that's a complete lie. She never asked them to do that. They never told her no. Why wouldn't the producers ask her to change? It would make the whole thing more fair. She would not be getting favoritism. Again, it would just make the competition a little fairer. But no, she lip-synced in skates and still killed it. So usually on Drag Race, when somebody is hindered in a situation that they're in, but they still pull through and do well, the judges will reward that. But they didn't do it. Now why is that? My guess is because Denali did not fit their girl boss inclusivity, please see how woke we are winner circle. Even though she is a person of color and Hispanic at that. But at this point, we all know that there is only one kind of a person of color on Drag Race that can prosper. You can hate me all you want in the comments or cancel me on Reddit or whatever. You know I'm right. If you say that Denali lost because her costume kept inching down, yeah, you're proving my point. The producers should have told the girls that they would be lip-syncing in the first episode. Denali does get a bit of retribution in her second episode on the show though, but that still does not balance it out, because guess what happens? Denali's in the bottom 2 in the episode right after that. Okay, she did not do well in the maxi challenge, that's clear, I'm not defending that. But the problem is that this episode, Drag Race did that lovely thing where the producers, put the girls into groups for the maxi challenge, instead of the girls picking teams or just getting together based on who they wanted to work with. Plus, some of the sketches were geared towards certain queens' strengths. For example, Candy and Tina got the April Fool's sketch. Oh my god, wow, the 2 queens that are the funny ones, or rather that we're supposed to believe are the funny ones, got the sketch about April Fools that wasn't thought out at all. Again, this does not directly affect Denali, but it does show that the winner circle got shit ton of more help from the producers. And as we know by now, the division into the 2 circles was very unfair. Then Denali is ignored for like 3 episodes, even though in the Discommentary challenge she made that scene that she did with Rosé her bitch. But, of course, no high placement for her because she's a dancer and they expect her to do well. Which, as we know, again, is nonsense. She's then high for 2 weeks in a row, well deserved. Wow, we're not sleeping on Denali, that's new. And then comes the episode that she's eliminated in. But before that, let's take a quick break to remind the audience that Nikita is a boy's name in Russia and that the anti-Slavic propaganda still happening on US television is so Cold War. All hail Sasha Velour. Back to this bitch that had a lot to say about me in the press. Episode 10 of season 13, what's good? So, makeover challenge. The worst challenge in Drag Race's history. Someday I might make a video on that. But for now, let's just focus on this episode. So, what was the challenge? You have your partner. You put them in your signature drag, or at least put them in a drag style that will make us, the audience, and them, the judges, see clearly who their partner is. Let's see what each of the pairs did. Denali in Olivia's drag is kind of a stretch, but I can see Olivia's thought process behind this, as Denali put Olivia in her entrance look-esque drag. Olivia did something similar, but this isn't the most successful of transformations, as it's not really specific and as Denali did not really emulate Olivia well. Gottmik and Candy did their job right, even though theirs was the hardest, and Utica and Simone did well too. Obviously, they were the two winners. Tina put Rosé in this. Tina never once wore hair like this. This look is not aggressively red, orange, and yellow, and Tina also never gave off the sort of housewife aesthetic. And also, do you really see this and think Rosé on season 13? Rosé, who thus far on season 13 had worn almost exclusively things that hid her figure, mostly with ruffles, and also wore a pink wig like twice, but not even a hot pink wig, because this hot pink wig is from her episode 1 appearance. So what happens? Olivia, Rosé, and Tina all flop, and Denali gets eliminated. Interesting. The only sort of bad thing Denali did in her presentation as Olivia was that she did not aggressively smile. Okay, if you're going to judge in pairs, put them low. If you're going to judge the queens individually, which is what should have happened, have her be safe at best, low at worst. It was very clear on this season that the judges just did not care for Denali for one reason or the other. If they wanted to help anyone on this season, it should have been her, as she was one of the biggest fan favorites of the season, if not the biggest. Her task in that episode was to put Olivia in drag that you see and immediately say, aha, Denali, and then also to have her live represent her, Denali, which is exactly what she did. She did then lose the lip sync to Olivia, but she should have never been anywhere near that bottom 2, as she was the 5th best person in that top 8 episode. And now, let's sing. See who you like, take a look at yourself, tell me why, send home Denali. Who deserves better Denali? I am gonna sue, so be a fool to yourself forevermore. Trying any kind of move, what's it gonna prove? You ain't fooling nobody, you ain't fooling nobody but yourself. Utica is an interesting case, because she might be the only queen from the losing group that received obvious favoritism alongside obvious mistreatment. The latter is greater, of course, and it makes sense because, well, she was part of the losing group, that's the whole point of this video, albeit she then went on to win 2 bottom 2 lip syncs, even though she was in the losing group, go figure. But the former, meaning the favoritism, also makes sense in regards to the archetype that she was cast as. She's obviously cast as the ooh, not like the other girls, quirky queen, a role filled by RuPaul's soulmate Crystal Method in season 12 that the audience, for one reason or the other, liked a lot. And so obviously, the show tried to repeat the success of the quirky queen with the favoritism of Utica, which, again, very minimal, but existent. However, the whole quirky thing worked against Utica and brought her first and her biggest instance of mistreatment in the bag ball challenge. So, in the judges' eyes, Utica and Gottmik were the top 2 of that episode. The judges fully said that Utica's last look is one of the most impressive things they've ever seen in a challenge of this sort. this is absolutely so, given that Utica got to be featured in Vogue for the look, and yet she didn't win. The only reason that we, the audience, got for Utica not winning was the comment about her runway presentation in her first two looks. To quote Violet Chachki,
"You don't have to be like every second because it's distracting. It really is distracting."
Listen, I 100% agree with this, as it can take you out of the fantasy and it looks very childish. But here's the thing, Utica never received that critique. The judges said the whole thing about her acting on the stage during the deliberations when the queens were not on the stage. So, in the eyes of the entire cast, this won over this until they saw the episode air. The production tried to cover their asses by showing us, the audience, that critique to excuse not giving Utica the win. But here's another thing. They could have criticized Utica on making stupid faces or whatever, and still could have given her the win. It wouldn't be the first time they've done that. If the Drag Race ball were a real ball, where you present yourself in a given category, Utica still would beat Gottmik. If anything, in the uniqueness aspect of it all. Now, since it's not a real ball, but rather a design challenge mixed with a strictly fashion challenge, Utica still beats Gottmik if we're to look at all previously established fashion-related critiques on Drag Race. Lalari gets put into the bottom two for gluing paper bags to a corset, but Gottmik wins for tying like 5 bags to her body. I'm simplifying it a little, but I'm doing it to show you just how unfair Utica was treated this episode. And then, in the next 2 episodes, when she had bad performances in the maxi challenges, the judges criticized her on still keeping up that whole quirky persona without previously telling her not to do it. The last bit of mistreatment competition-wise that doesn't relate to her edit came in the 11th episode. So, okay, her commercial was very what the genuine hell, but, and as I've mentioned in the beginning of Utica's section, what archetype does she represent? Now, what did Crystal do to get her only maxi challenge win on season 12? Yeah, exactly. Also, and this is just a personal thing, Utica's like the only one next to Rosé that actually had a beast look on the runway, a look at that's stunning, and that's maybe one of her best looks on the season, perfectly merging her more fashion side to her more out-of-the-box take on drag. What doesn't help her presentation on the show is that after Candy was saved after her loss to Simone, the season was left without a villain. Enter a frustrated Utica. The show started heavily featuring the moments where Utica's good and polite self was kind of lost due to, again, frustration and probably exhaustion in the competition, and the other girls' comments about her were about the change in her behavior. Pair this up with how she was portrayed in the roast episode and how sensitive the fandom is, and you get yourself a random villain in Utica. Guys, firstly, it's a roast. Secondly, they're drag queens. The point is to cross the line a little. Utica's fat jokes were not bad because, oh my god, she was making fun of somebody's body. They were bad because they just were not good jokes. And that's what the show portrayed. But they failed to remember that the fandom would misinterpret that completely. Or at least I'm hoping that they failed to remember that. Some people just genuinely don't get the concept of a roast and the whole point of it. Anyways, Utica did get some favoritism for the reason I have mentioned earlier in the video. In the Discommentary episode, surprise, surprise, the Discommentary episode, will we ever not talk about it? Utica not only had a pretty bad performance, but she also had a runway look that the judges not only did not get, but also did not like. And yet, she was still kept low. We may not count this as favoritism because the production wanted Candy and Tamisha in there, but let's be real, guys. With that bottom 3, Utica did the worst, and let's be extra super honest, the bottom 2 in that episode should have 100% been Gottmik and Utica. That's all. And lastly, we get to Rosé. This is going to be a bit of an anticlimactic ending, as Rosé kind of mostly placed where she would have placed had the entire season been fair. there wasn't much of special treatment for or against her, you know? When she did well in a challenge, her runway looks would ruin her chances of winning. She did win challenges though, let's not forget about that. She was never in the bottom 2, and the closest that she got to it was in the makeover episode, but I'm not going to repeat myself, you know what the deal is with that episode and with her performance on there. Even so, if the judging hadn't been all fuckery, Rosé would have been low at worst / best. No, she should have been low, she was low, but you know what I mean. She would have never been in the bottom 2. The production kind of ignored her because she wasn't much of a reality TV personality, as she took on Drag Race as a competition and not as a competition reality show. I really don't know what I could say here, so please, if you have anything to say here, share your ideas in the comments and I'll try to respond to as many as possible. What a horrible way to finish this video. Listen, Drag Race has many problems, and other than the whole production meddling with the queens aspect of it all, the problem is also the fact that the main judges are people whose age range is 40 to 60, and they're judging people who are mostly in the age range of 20 to 40 in challenges that are made to be current. There's an obvious dissonance there, don't you think? Now, what if season 13 had been judged fairly? I could do that video, but how about this? If this video gets over 50k views before the end of June, and if I reach 50k subscribers until the end of June, again, I will make that video. Now, if one of the two things does not happen, I might still make it, but it will be behind a paywall for a little while. In any case, season 13 was kind of like a change of pace for the show, so that's why a fair amount of things seem off about it. Still, that does not excuse the absolute nonsense that each one of the queens in the losing team had to endure. And that's it. That's the video. Jesus Christ, this was longer than the previous video, and I think you could notice that it's not as in-depth. I just did this video to get it off my dick, because Drag Race videos I do for money, the rest of the videos I do for fun. Well, okay, no, I'm kidding. Drag Race is fun still. Drag Race España especially, that's a fantastic season, and I love doing videos about it. So, with the time that I had, this is the best that I could do. I hope you like it. Like, no, literally, I hope you like the video. The engagement would help me a lot. And, yeah, thank you for watching.